Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from irishsportsdaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flammang, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uyeyama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Wednesday, September 3rd. We have watched the All-22 tape. We have watched the game back on offense and defense, and we're going to let everybody know whether or not how we feel about Notre Dame's offense, whether we feel better or worse, Notre Dame's defense, whether we feel better or worse after watching the game back. So we'll talk about that. We'll go into we'll show some clips. I've got some clips lined up, Jamie, on our RPO stuff, specifically how the linebackers are playing, how Notre Dame's pressures, like you can confuse the offensive line without sending numbers. That's something that Notre Dame can do if they want to rush four, but you got to mix it up a little bit. We'll talk about that, and we'll get to listener questions and comments in the chat as well. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you hear today, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is. We are going live. Links to the podcast are in the description below. And as always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing. You've seen it on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. And, of course, ESQ was founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. ESQ is your go-to spot for the best handmade custom suits, sport coats, tuxedo shirts, and more. ESQ's master tailors combine next-level craftsmanship with the finest fabrics to deliver a fit that's built just for you. Now with showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka. Book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com. Mention ISD at your appointment and receive 10% off your entire purchase. And also keep in mind there is a Labor Day kickoff sale going on right now. That means 20% off all online items ready to wear, including ESQ's award-winning bamboo dress shirts and their new luxury dress tee. Use code KICKOFF and get 20% off all online items through September 6th. It's next Saturday. Use code KICKOFF. Get 20% off all online items through September 6th. That's esqclothing.com. Jamie, let's just get into it. Okay? Let's just get into it. We'll start with the offense. We were talking about it a little bit before the show. After watching the game back on all 22, do you feel better or worse about the offense at this point?
Probably about the same as after watching the game, which was, some good stuff, but way too, things that weren't good enough. I'll say that I feel a bit better about like the play calling and like how like the flow of the game affected that. Yes, Chris, the tackles were that bad. They were.
Chris Schreiber says were the tackles that bad. I think a lot of people have questions about that.
They were absolutely that bad. But I do think I just want to add context to this. Like, one, the guys that they were playing against were great in the game. They were awesome in the game, and you don't want to give those guys credit. And I do think like Bain is probably the most complete defensive end that they've played. Either of those guys have gone up against, and they played against some pretty good ones last year. A ton of high picks. And I'll say too that they didn't do enough job. They didn't do a good enough job helping them. And I think that was on Denbrock and Rudolph. And, that like they didn't do enough to help those guys in terms of running duo to like double those guys every once in a while, right? In the run game. That was one of the things that was Notre Dame did best last year was run duo with Eli Raridan and Knapp or Wagner, and they displaced people. Like that was a thing. They did that all throughout basically the second half of the year. That was like an extremely successful play for them. And they opened up a ton of holes that way. So there's that. And then also they didn't use like Miami used their tight ends to chip all the time, Notre Dame's edges, especially with like Markel Bell, who was getting beat quite a bit. But even with Maui Aga, they did it too. It's like he wasn't one-on-one every single time. Even actually on that the Boubacar Traore sack, he got jammed at the beginning of that by a tight end. Like that's what makes that pass rush even better, was that he didn't have like a straight line. Like he had to maneuver around it to get that and then beat him with the spin move after. So Yeah, I'd say that like there's a lot of things that I think that need to be changed, but I think that Mike Denbrock will change a lot of that stuff, and they will adjust. And also, I think those tackles, we've just seen them play better. We've seen them play like not even close. They're going to be so much better, right? So, um, I do think that you know from that perspective, I feel about the same. Like I feel like
Yeah.
those guys were bad. Do I think they're going to be that bad all year? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Kevin Kevin Ori asked, how realistic is it to expect the offensive line to get a lot better? They can play better, sure, but was so terrible. Does it feel like we can expect a dominant O line? You know, it's kind of like you said. I don't know what to. The surprising part to me about the way that Wagner and Knapp played is the technique mistakes that you see. You don't expect that. It's one thing to be losing reps. It's another thing to just be completely separate from what you've been from a technique standpoint. And that part of it, I don't really know what to make of it. They were better, like you said, all of last year. That was Emil Wagner's worst game by far. It was
By
really
far.
bad. And he's played well against some very, very good players.
This was much worse than those guys against Texas A&M last year.
Yeah.
Like
When Anthony
close.
Knapp had never played a snap before.
Yeah.
So like the lack of technique, the technique mistakes that you're seeing, not getting into your proper pass sets, like that's the part to me that I don't really understand. This would be like someone asked me, like, about the Wagner game, and I'm like, this would be like if Leonard Moore gave up 10 catches for like 225 or something. And it's just like, I don't know what really to make of this. Like, we didn't see this last year, and you would expect that to change, but the fact that you saw it is concerning. Like you said, that's why I think you're going with, it's about the same, because people of course, like, we were very confident in Notre Dame's offensive line, right, going into the season. And obviously they played poorly, and we obviously have to own that stuff, right? We have takes and we have our opinions, and we have to own them, right? That's why we're here. There's no way I expected for their tackles to be this bad. I thought it might be difficult, but I did not think the drop would be what it was. And that's very hard to predict, obviously. So it just is what it is, and you just have to go into it. Let's talk a little bit about the game plan. And because people, there was a lot of talk about the game plan and the number of carries Jeremiah Love got. And we've kind of been, one of our main takeaways from watching the game back was how many RPOs that were run where the ball could have been given to Jeremiah Love and it wasn't. And that was a decision by CJ Carr. Notre Dame was credited with 11 screens on PFF in the game. I counted 6. We said 7, but I think it was 6 that I'm pretty sure were not called screens where the ball could have been given to the running back. And CJ Carr decided to pull it. This, to me, was the biggest gripe that I would have with Denbrock's game plan, in that he put so much of that on CJ Carr in his first start, especially when it comes to how often your best player is getting the ball. Talk a little bit about that, Jamie. I'm going to put up in a second all the 6 times that Notre Dame could have given the ball to Jeremiah Love and pulled it out, which isn't to say these are wrong decisions. I'm just saying the ball
some of them were the right decision. Yeah. But obviously too, like you got to be 100% right on those. That's how you get success, right? Like that's how you get a successful play, is like you're trusting your quarterback to choose right. And there are at least a couple times where he didn't, right? And so that matters. It also matters that, like, those are calls that, like, you're expecting him to get the ball, or like there's a good chance he's going to get the ball. So I think when you look at it from like a touches perspective, he would have had more touches, and I think that would have made a difference. Also, like, his best run of the day got pulled off of the board because of a holding call, which, I highlighted on Twitter. That's not a holding. Like, it was a bad call. They made up for it the play later, which was also kind of like an iffy call on the Pauling thing. But yeah, like, the first play was actually not a good choice, right? This one was the end played that well, and that made it a tough play, right? Like, that's a right call. That's the right call. That's not a good block by the receiver. The receiver's blocking. The receiver blocking didn't get enough credit in this game. Also, Eli, credit for how bad it was. Like, that play is not on, even though Jaden Greathouse did not block well in this game, that's not Jaden Greathouse's fault. That's a bad read, right? Like, so I think if you look at it, there's so many different things you can point to on those plays, and just in general, I'll just say the level of execution on offense was so poor across the board of what you get. Like, even I would say Jeremiah Love, for all the he's obviously a spectacular player, but though they ran that counter out of 21, that counter lead out of 21, he cut it wrong. Like, it was a bad read. If he would have followed Price, he would have hit it for big yards, right? Like, there's the play, the quarterback counter in short yardage where that got blown up, where Gerby Lambert, blocked the wrong guy. That guy comes in and blows up the play. If you look at how that was blocked, there would have been daylight. Like, he would have had a huge play. That was actually set up to be probably like a 30-yard run, right?
Yeah.
Like, and there was a lot of that. Like, that screen was the one that you showed that was down at the boundary where Malachi Fields didn't get a good block on Faison's guy, and then Faison ends up getting it. Faison did a great job after the catch. Just in general, he did a great job. But I think there was just different levels of all of that across the board. And I mean, I'll give credit. You got to give credit to Miami, because they were they took it to him. They were waiting from DBs to backers to D line. They were way more physical than Notre Dame. And that was, something you haven't seen from Notre Dame's offense. Really, I don't even know when, because I would say even the Northern Illinois game, I don't think that was a game where it was like, oh man, Northern Illinois totally out physical them. I thought there was a lot of I don't think Denbrock called the best game in that game. There was other factors. This game, I was like, Denbrock, maybe there's definitely things he could have done different, and there's things he could do different. Sometimes you just get your butt kicked, and they got their butt kicked. And I think the chances of that happening again in that exact same way are pretty slim. Like, they're going to respond. I think they're going to be challenged. And the other thing is, most of those guys, you've seen them play better, which is why, like, if you said the last game that everyone saw, like, those guys play, like, Emil Wagner was very good in the national championship game. Was not the same guy. He was like you said, kind of like baffling technique stuff. And someone, mentioned is like, well, is that coaching? It's like, I really can't stand it when people say like, there's a horrible game, and it's like, well, they fire this coach. Like, the same coach who did that good of a job, like, over the course of the thing, it's like, I don't think it's just the coach, guys. Like, there's obviously other factors that go into it. Now, obviously, it's on the coach to get these guys to play to a higher level in the next game. And if they don't, then maybe there is something. But like, and if it keeps continuing, then you can look at it then. But there's way overreaction to one game in terms of like firing coaches, get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy. A lot of times, like, guys respond and do well. That's the perfect example was Notre Dame. Like, last year, if you look at like the record of like how many times were they outcoached or whatever last year, it's not a long list. Like, they outcoached the opposition in most games.
Yeah, I mean, my standard kind of my standard take on coaching and all that stuff. It's like, I don't need to blame him. He's responsible for it. He's the head. He's the O-line coach. He's responsible for the way these guys perform. Okay. Now, Wagner's played a ton of games. Like, if they're playing with bad technique, it's a coaching error. He's responsible for that, right? I mean, I don't need to go into like, I don't need to like pontificate on what he should have done. Like there's a lot of questions about should they play Will Black at tackle? Should they have done this and that and the other thing? I have no idea because I'm not there and no one else is there. How can I say? Like I can't make an informed opinion on it if I watch more games. Like once we see more games and we get more tape on them and we start to see, and it's a continued pattern, then you can start to say, hey, they need to do something else because this isn't working. I can't bang him for starting Anthony Knapp. I can't bang him for starting Emil Wagner. Of course not, right? They didn't play very well. They played terrible. They played a terrible game. Like no one feels worse about it than the players. No one feels more responsible for it than the line coach. That's just true. They did not play a good game.
Can you throw up Jason Warnock's question? Because I think it's a really good question, right? Like, and it's a fair
the 50 starts. The 50 starts.
Yeah.
Jamie, I respect that opinion, but how did the O-line do better last year with 6 total starts opposed to over 50 in this game?
Well, that's exactly why no one said, hey, these guys are going to get their butts handed to them, right? Like and also I want to be clear that it was like the tackles on the right guard pretty much, right? Like, and the right guard, some of it was like, hey, that's, you give those guys some grace. It's the first, both those guys, it's a first start. I don't think they played horrible for a first start. There was obviously some bad misses, but it wasn't horrible for a first start. The thing is you expect the other 4 guys around him to play better. And I think Shroud played fine. He played fine. He wasn't dominant. He played fine. I think Ashton Craig played good, right? Now those guys, Ashton Craig started 3 games last year. He basically played 2.5 games last year. So how did he play better than Wagner and, Knapp, who started 15 and 16? Beats me. I don't know. I have no idea why that is the case. I think that's the job of Joe Rudolph and Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock, of them to find out why that happened, right? Some of it certainly has to do with like, I think Bain and Messidor, the way those guys played, I think those guys were playing better specifically against the run than any of the defensive ends really that they played, I would say, last year. You just see those guys like they're just far more violent, play far much better. As a D-line guy, I'd be like, Bryce Young, hey, watch some Ruben Bain tape. That's the guy you need to be, right? Because like that kind of leverage and that kind of power that he was playing with all the time, like that is special. And it's also something that, I mean, it's extremely hard to emulate. It's not like everybody can do it, but that is this kind of thing that you want Bryce Young to be eventually, right? So I think but again, it's not always happening that way. If like, Emil Wagner, are you playing with better leverage? Are you like driving with your feet more? Like if you do, like there's different things that you're like, that's not how they blocked last year. So could it have been that like, hey, humidity, whatever? Yeah, maybe later in the game, but in the beginning of the game, they weren't winning those battles either. Mm-hmm. But I will say there's one thing that I do think is one important piece of it is if you look at how like the game flow of the game last year and why that game went how it did, it was not good for the offensive line.
You're talking about Texas A&M.
Texas A&M in the beginning, sorry. Yeah, specifically Texas A&M. It was not good in the beginning for Knapp and Wagner. It was struggle down. And as the game wore on and they started to kind of impose their will a little bit more in the game, they were able to run the ball more, do these things. They didn't break through running other than the one Price play until in the fourth quarter,
which they got in this game. Here's the other part too, right? 5 minutes left in the game. It's funny because I was literally just looking it up right now because in many ways the offense played better in this game than they did in the A&M game last year. Because A&M, they had, I think, the 2 long drives for touchdown. They had 3 of those in this game in a situation where the offensive line wasn't as good. Like, it's just funny how, like, the way we view it is completely different. Like, they had 3 long drives. They didn't run the ball nearly as well, but they did have that, like, it was the one drive at the end where the running game really exploded. And so it's just kind of funny how that works out. And the big difference is that in the A&M game, they didn't give up 14 straight points in the middle of the game when the offense couldn't get on the field, so that it really taints how we view it. Like, we would not be having do you feel better or worse? I wouldn't even frame it that way if Notre Dame had won 27-24. Yeah. Right. But the problems are the problems, and the way they played is the way they played. And so we do need to talk about it. Right. So that's kind of the deal.
Well, and then the other thing I would say that is equally baffling is that if you look at those, and I think this probably is a better explanation for everything, how it is. If you're a defense and you're getting a turnover after 1 play, or you're getting a turnover after 2 plays, that's 2 of the drives there for Notre Dame. That happened to them. Also, there was like 3 and outs during that time. So they had the one drive where they drove it and scored, where Price got a bunch of carries, and obviously they ran the ball well and scored. Well, during that time too, right? From basically for 2 full quarters, they went, fumble, 1 play, 3 and out, 3 and out, 11 plays, long drive, half, which was whatever, they took a knee, 3 and out. But then when they started to get, long drives and started to execute a bit better and all of that, and all of a sudden it's like they weren't getting that same rush during that. They weren't getting pressure during those times. Like, they weren't. Like, you look, the reason that Reardon got so wide open was he had the time to make that throw.
Yeah.
Even if you look at like so many of these other plays too, where or series, if you're stacking up longer drives too, that means like Bain and Messidor are getting taken off, and the next guys aren't as good as them. That was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And so, and that's happening. Like, but if you're not wearing those guys down, of course they're gonna be fresh. The end of the game thing, I don't like. It's like a license to just destroy the quarterback there, right? Like, it's not a good. It's the worst.
That's separate from.
I totally take that as a separate thing than anything else. Which is why I would say too, like Styles Prescott, like I don't blame any of that part of that for him. And I actually thought that Styles Prescott before that played pretty good.
Yeah.
Considering the circumstances he's put in.
Agreed.
And probably played better than Knapp. And, and that's the thing where, Knapp was obviously failing because of that, but there is some of that goes into it. If like you aren't driving the ball, you aren't executing across the board and getting first downs and doing all of this, you can't wear down a defense. Those guys stay fresh the whole game. And it's not just the fact that, hey, we've been training in Miami, whatever. It's like they didn't play that much. Like, they didn't run that many plays in the game, right? Like, if you run like a minimal amount of plays in the game, of course those guys are going to be fresh. And I think that had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah. ISEV says, I think the offense scored enough points to win this game. The defense let them down in the middle 8 and 2-minute drill. Here's the thing for me, Jamie. And when we segue to the defense, we'll talk about this more. But the defense had tough moments in the middle 8, right? We get that. The offense had tough moments in the middle of that time. The defense got a bunch of stops. The offense paid it off by tying the game. It was winning time at that point, Jamie. That's when it's get off the field. There were missed tackles on that. The Christian Gray pass interference, that is a mental error. He is in cover 3, Jamie, and he is in a trail position on a go ball. When you're in cover 3, they teach you like you have to be on top of the wide receiver at all times. You should never be trailing when you are in 3 cover like that.
Let that guy run a comeback and you break on it. That should never.
That is the point of cover 3.
That is the point of cover 3. Yes.
Yes, and you are trailing in a bad position and you trip them up, it's a penalty. It's not like that. That to me is not good. And that is the difference to me where it's like, hey, I get you got all those stops and maybe Miami took their foot off the gas and maybe they didn't, but it was winning time at that moment. There were missed tackles, there were mental errors, and they were kind of bailed out by the fact that Mario Cristobal thought Notre Dame was out of timeouts and was going to run the ball at the end. He thought he was going to be able to run it down in 20 seconds. He didn't know. So that to me is like, we need to talk about the defense because I think we have a different, like, I feel better about the offense going into this because I don't think Mike Denbrock is going to make the mistake of putting the decision of how many times Jeremiah touches the ball on his quarterback. I think that was a bad move, and they shouldn't have done that. Like you just cannot.
I also think like Cassius Howell's like probably the best pass rusher for Texas A&M. If he's killing Wagner or Knapp in this game, I don't think they're going to be like, okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Like they'd be stupid. They're not. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think that's going to happen. So there's things like that where I just think, I think there was so many things going wrong in the heat of the game that they weren't thinking of those types of adjustments, which is, I think, you know, obviously a mistake, but that was part of it.
It happens.
I think, you know, I don't think it was the offense. I didn't think the offense scored enough points. I think they played bad for the most part. You know what I mean? Like that's true. But I also think the defense, like Greg said, like they had other chances, but what they didn't do was play complementary football because the offense turned it over deep into Notre Dame territory twice. Right after, like I said, 3 plays, 2 turnovers. That's 2 drives that they gave up. Like those are huge mistakes. And Notre Dame held them to 3 points on those. So like, yeah, great job. Also, like after the offense went 3 and out after it was 21-7, you know, the next few drives they played great. So it's like give and take, whatever. But the point is that neither of them played at the level that they're, and I think people were used to the defense bailing the offense out because that's really
they did it all last year.
They did it all last year. That's how they won the Louisville game. Like it, you know, the defense was what kind of bailed them out, really. You know, the offense did enough, but that wasn't. But the defense was what won them the game. And I think that's the kind of thing that is, if you were going to say like if we want to transition to the defense, and the reason I feel better about the defense is because I thought there was a lot of factors that went against them in this game that aren't going to happen in a lot of other games. So like Carson Beck getting the ball out in 2.34 seconds is average time to throw. Like they're going to play nobody who throws it that quickly all game. Like that is not going to happen. So that is part of it. So I do think like the pass rush is going to hit home and get better as they go along. I also just like, I don't think that they're going to go into this bye week and say, guys, let's stick to it and continue what we did, because it was so plainly obvious what they needed to do to change. And the numbers back it reflect it too, of what, you know, when they blitzed like 4.8 YPA compared to 8.4 when they didn't blitz. Or you play man, okay, great, but you don't bring a pressure along with it. Like, why? Right? Like there was all these kind of things that I think I could put more on coaching than I could on players. Not that their players played perfect or anything or played great all the way. There are certainly guys who had, you know, rough games. But I do think that there was enough there that I think that if you also coach to the strengths of the players better, it's going to still be it's going to be pretty good. And then even in this game, if you think about like they gave up 4.7 YPP, like they won third down most of the time. They won the red zone, you know, 50% in the red zone. That's good. Like you'll take that.
Yeah.
Like the havoc. There's schematic things that they got to change. And I think that's the thing that it makes it easier, which if they change it and they do veer towards what they did last year, and because evolving to something that doesn't fit the personnel that's not enhancing. That's not enhancing. If they do that, then that's why I feel better about the defense, because I think, hey, you know what? They still played pretty good, not like fine with that. And I think there's just so much room for them to be just way better in the weeks to come if they get, if they adjust, right? So
yeah. There were decisions made that I'm curious about. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. I asked you guys on Power Hour. We could talk about it again on the decision. They were bringing pressure, and then they just stopped. That's a decision that was just baffling to me. Just that they would make that choice, because to me it was clearly a decision based on the way the rest of the game went. It wasn't a noticeable. It wasn't a small change in philosophy. It was drastic. It's like we are only rushing 4. Right. And that was the decision that Notre Dame went to. Make a decision for your fitness. If you're getting older, it's hard to get out there and move around. I played in a parent game for my daughter's soccer team, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore. It's too much. There's too much impact, and I'm sore and sad. But you got to be a little bit less impact, but you also want to be moving around. You can do that with pickleball, Jamie. And H2 Pickleball, founded by alum Todd Hill, is teaming with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howes, a top 10 pickleball pro, to bring Notre Dame fans the Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership is free, and members will have access to special pickleball events and proceeds, or special events and discounts. The first event will be a tournament before the Purdue game with medal rounds played on campus. A portion of the proceeds will go to the Rockne Athletics Fund to support Notre Dame student athletes. Contact Todd at todd@h2pickleball.com or 574-339-5195 to join the league. And be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka. So here's the thing I want to say about the defense. And we disagree on this. I actually feel a little bit worse about the defense. And here's why. There were so many times last season, not just last season, but the year before as well, when we talked about, and it's hard to quantify, but how organized the defense was. Everyone is on the same page. Everyone is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. You can look at this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy, and oh, this is his role, and look how he's playing it. He's playing it perfect. He's playing it just right. And there were so many times when I'm watching the game and I'm thinking, man, this doesn't look that crisp to me. Doesn't look that good. And it's not that the outcome is super bad or it led to a bad outcome, but I'm just thinking, man, like I don't like how this looks. This doesn't look great, and the touchdown to the first touchdown of the game, where I'm just like, and this is a Xavier Watts thing, and we talked about it. Like, I think if Watts is in the middle of the field, I think he makes that play. He 100% makes.
I will say too, even if X Watts was playing in the game, then they win the game. That honestly, I actually think because the game was close enough, and they still would have played I'm sure the other mistakes would happen. He would have picked off that ball to Schuler.
Well, if he's playing it,
he would be playing that.
He usually did. That's kind of the interception that he had against USC. In the end zone, he returns at 198 yards. If Watts is playing in the game, they win. But it's just like that's the thing, right? Where it's you have that bust. You have the bust where Christian Gray is playing cover 1 and the rest of the team is playing either cover 2 or cover 4. And the tight end gets open on the seam route. You have Luke Tolich is turning the tight end loose up the seam on another one where Carson Beck missed him. There was a third down play where Leonard Moore gets beat on like a little curl route. And And like he loses, Devontae Smith loses in the slot that they don't throw it, and then Christian Gray loses on top of the screen. And I'm just thinking, man, this is a lot of time. The second third down when they did the pivot route, you've got the back open in the flat where it's like if he's uncovered. If they cover the pivot route, they'll throw it to the back and he'll run for a first down. There's so many things like that where I'm like, it just doesn't. The quality of play is not what it was and not what it has been. That's the part that I don't like. That makes me uncomfortable. That makes me nervous. I do think that they'll figure it out. So, because I think it is a good defense and you have a thing. So I don't know. And look, there's also a piece of this where they came up big in the red zone on the when they gave up the turnovers and everything. I understand that, right? And they gave up 27 points, and not just that, but they gave up 324 yards and 4.7 yards per play. Okay, people were talking about BVG. Settle down, okay?
Relax.
4.7 yards a play is fine. All right, against what may or may not be a good team on offense. It was the number one offense in football last year. The decisions that were made to not bring pressure, Jamie, because here's the thing. You're rushing 4. You want to rush 4, rush 4. It's not just that they rushed 4, it's that they were obviously rushing 4.
Yes.
There were no sims. Or there were few sims, I should say. And the times that they ran sims, Jamie, they worked. I'm going to put it up. The one with Bryce Young, where he gets through. It's a 3-man rush, and he gets through clean on the quarterback because they think they're rushing 4, and they bring 3 from a side that they're not ready for. And I'm thinking, where is this? Where has this been? And that's the part that I don't really understand. And so I just kind of talk about that. It's just like, it's not that you need to bring numbers. It's that you can't just obviously we're rushing 4 and it's going, exactly what you're getting, because the offensive line is going to have a much better chance of picking you up than you are if you're doing some kind of sim blitz.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is like, you can look at certain plays where, they did run some like nice pressures that were effective, but it was like, why wasn't there more of this? Because that was, frankly, the staple for
yes.
Al Golden. He was going to attack you. He was going to, like that Bryce Young play where his pressure, right, led to an incomplete pass. That play happens because they blitzed
the play
Bowen.
before.
They blitzed the play before, but they blitzed Bowen, and Mauiaga got off of it.
This one right here.
Yes. And you'll see it here. And look, he has to step in.
Hold on.
And it's a miscommunication from that guard. Thinks, hey, Mauiaga's got him. Nope. Because the whole point of it is to confuse the protection.
Yeah.
They have enough guys to block it. Just 73 ends up blocking no one. So this is the thing. Look at how they rush 3 and get pressure, right? So that is the thing that, like, you have to do more of that. The thing is too is that maybe this is an NFL thing by Chris Ash, or the fact that he came from a team that had Max Crosby before. Yeah, you got Max Crosby. That guy can win on his own. Even then, Max Crosby's going to be better if people have to worry about him and then they're designing practice and then somebody else comes free. Even when they blitzed, there was just very few like free rushers.
Yeah.
That to me, so from that perspective, that is concerning. And I'm like, Chris Ash, get on it, man. Get on it. It wasn't good enough. Because, and this is the other thing. You want to play more zone? You play some more zone. Okay. I don't care if they play some, but it's like, oh, we're mostly going to do what, we do still. Okay. That sounds good. Because And personally, I didn't think he'd be dumb enough to change it too much. And I don't want to call him dumb for one game or whatever, but it was a mistake. It was a mistake to play it like they did. And yes, it's one game. So let's take perspective here.
Yeah.
But in the game, 44% man for Leonard Moore, 41.2 for Gray. They were 61.4 and 64.8. So a pretty, about a
20% different. Yeah, 20%.
Yeah,
difference.
that's a big, first of all, that's a big difference, right? That's a big difference. So, could they go 50? Okay, sure. But if that's a big difference. Here's same, but then it's the same at safeties. 42.4 for Schuler and 37 for Stroman. Both starting safeties over 60% last year. Rod Hurd over 60. Nickel. Jordan Clark 61.2 last year. Hobbs 57.5, but he played 11 coverage snaps.
Yeah, he wasn't in there. Yeah.
So six out of 11. 39.1. So another 20% drop for Devontae Smith. Here's where it's just massive. And this is, I think, too, which is a completely fixable. Get out of this. It's pretty obvious the linebackers were not playing fast, effective, downhill in that way. And 16.7% man for Snead, 12.5% man for Bowen, 28.6 for or 12.5 for KVA, 28.6 for Bowen, 30% for Osbury. All the LBs. The lowest one last year was Osbury, 57.5. Everybody else over 60. So you have that, and you have these guys playing zone, and you're no. It's attack mode. The other thing is, too, is when you're playing zone with linebackers like that, too, you know what you take out? Any threat of a green dog.
Yeah.
Because that's what a green dog. So for people who don't know what a green dog is, it's basically if you have that back in man, I'm a linebacker, I have that back in man, he stays in the block, I go. I'm blitzing, I'm adding in. Because otherwise I'm just standing there like an idiot. But here I get to add into the pressure, right? And then that's the thing. When you're so used to it and you see it a lot, you attack it and you go. And
there it is. Here it is. The Snead
play. So there, sees it and goes, affects the throw. Bad throw.
I mean, look at just get they put someone in the face of
just
Beck,
get in his face.
and look what he does. He just completely is off his back foot. He doesn't like it. He's stepping back. He doesn't like this, and it's just this is a terrible pass.
It's a terrible pass, but I almost think it might have been a smart play where he's just trying to, I'm throwing it away.
Yeah,
it might be that too, but that's the whole point. Is hey, they got a 0 out of that. That's a win for you on defense, right? And if you look at it in the game, so they completed Beck was 80% against zone in the game for 99 yards, 6.6 YPA. Hey, not lighting it up, right? So it was a higher YPA against man, but it's because they had the 2 touchdowns off of man. So they're 7 of 13 for man, 53.8%. So obviously quite a big difference in percentage, but a higher, YPA because they had, the big plays off of it.
Yeah.
But if Schuler doesn't sit there instead of going up and getting the ball there, and that ball's incomplete, well, then it's 46.2% completion and 6.6 YPA. You're going to take that over the zone.
Yeah.
So that's a thing, though. You have to, within the flow of the game, and I understand it's hard, right? It's hard. It's easy for us to say after the game and doing it, but it's your job as a DC to know, in the flow of the game, it's man, they're just picking us apart doing the zone. Oh, we had some busts here. We had this there. Maybe let's call man. Let's do that. Let's change this. Hey, we're not getting enough pressure with 4. He's getting the ball out so quickly. We got to put some sims. We got to do something to get somebody free so they can get pressure, immediate pressure, right? And a part of the game is a little bit different because you're calling the game different when you're down, right? So it's like they have the option to run and whatever.
Yeah.
So that is also something that changes. But still, this was not a quarterback who was a threat to run. He didn't have to call a bunch of zone worrying about him possibly running or spying. Even then, you could still play man at just, hey, we're going to spy this guy, right? Like, I don't know. Like, and obviously, too, you look at Al Golden, it's not like he's like cover one every single time. There's so many variations of what they did. You got to tap into it because the guys have played there and played well. And then if all these guys played, so Drake Bowen has, probably the worst game that he's had, why does that happen? I don't think it's because he's a captain now and there's more on it. Like, I don't think he's a worse player than he was last year in the first game last year. Like, why in the first game last year was he coming and destroying, just absolutely destroying a counter?
Well, like every counter you see, he's flying in there and lighting up the guard or the tackle or the tight end or whoever it is. Like, and that's the thing with the linebackers too, because here's everyone's saying, right, and me included, and I think you're with me on this, like KVA, right? Get him on the field, right? What is your favorite? And I want everyone to think about this. What is your favorite play from KVA in this game? Everything that you liked about KVA was him coming off the edge, was him lined up on the line. When they were in
the bear front, yes.
When you think about, because KVA didn't always play in the bear front. He played in the back too as well, whether it was next to Snead, whether it was next to Osbury, whether it was next to Bowen. They were out there. Think of your favorite play from a linebacker that wasn't out of a bear front or when they weren't just blitzing on a green dog or whatever. You can't think of one because they didn't make any plays. And I have an example of this, and I want to talk to you about it because to me, this is going to appear to be like a negative on the two players that I'm showing. I think this is coached because they both did it, and it is both throughout the game. Okay? You have Bowen and Snead. This looks like some kind of duo play, like straight ahead run. No one's pulling, no one's anything. Okay, ball gets snapped. Okay, first step for Snead is backward. Okay, look at them. There's a gap here for Bowen, shoot in there. There's a gap here for Snead, shoot in there. They are both waiting. They are both sitting and waiting. And who is that? The guard finally gets off on the Snead, and Bowen gets in there and makes the tackle. But this is 4 or 5 yards down the field, Jamie.
Yeah.
Why are they not attacking here?
Yes.
These two players, especially Bowen, if he sees it, he will go. Why are they not doing that?
Well, and it's funny, too, because we were talking to Matt Freeman, and he's talking about how, their guards got to them. The guards got to them because they weren't playing downhill. Right. And I'm not blaming them because that's not how they played last year.
It was throughout the game, and it was across players. It wasn't just them. That's the thing. If it was just them and KVA is shooting gaps and getting in there, if Osbury's shooting gaps and getting in there, like the tackle that Osbury made that was at the line of scrimmage was when Jared Dawson had already plugged up the running back. And then he was finally able to come on through and make the play. Like there were not players darting into backfields, Jamie. And this is the part that really makes me where it's like, I don't know. I don't like this.
You can't create havoc. You force your D-line to your D-line just has to absolutely kick the living crap out of that guy in order to create havoc. And I'm sorry, yes, that can happen sometimes, but that rarely happens. I mean, that's not how Miami played. If you look at what they did, they did a lot more. They moved around more.
There was movement.
There was movement with Heatherman. Heatherman did a great job. Really, really good job. Not unsurprisingly. The only time they ever stemmed to anything is when they stemmed into that 5-man front, the bear front. Like that was it. They didn't, and that was another staple of them last year, specifically for like the defensive tackles, right? To stem and move and do all that. That's Donovan Heinisch. That helps make a guy like that successful. if you stay static, you make it easy for the offensive line. You just do, because they go, we line up. Okay. It's inside zone.
They got exactly what it looked like.
I got this guy, that. If they're, yes, exactly. If it's exactly how it looks every time, and you're just essentially playing base, you can do that in the NFL, because it's just like the dudes are just good enough. They're just like, those guys are going to win every time.
Yeah.
Right. But even then, that's not how a lot of NFL teams do it either. Like, you have to be able to do more. And it's like, unless you don't have Dexter Lawrence, you don't have that guy who's just like, I'm just going to just come out here and just be unblockable. Two guys, forget it. Like, they don't have that guy. Even if this was Mills and Cross in there, it's not to say whatever. There's some things with the defensive tackles I wasn't happy with. But I guarantee you, if you're moving those guys, you make it easier for them. You make it easier for them to make plays, because that's how screw-ups happen. That's where Gerby Lambert doesn't know who to block on a certain play. I mean, that play was just his screw-up, just based on not a switch, but still, that's how that kind of mistake can happen. So you got to do more of that. And that's why I say I feel better, because I'm like, that's not hard to just implement more of that. To me, it's not, because they've done it before. Now, does Chris Ash have to swallow some pride and be like, hey, man, I got to go more direction towards this too? Because the thing is like, yes, he does have to do that. You have to coach the strength of your players. And that's, anyone can tell you, that's coaching. The reason why Notre Dame's offense was successful last year was because of exactly that. Mike Denbrock coached to the strength of his players. Now he's got to do a better job of it going forward this year, but that's why the offense was what it was. You want to see him throw the ball down the field more. You want to see that. It wouldn't have been to the benefit of Notre Dame to do that, because they probably didn't have the receivers for it, and Riley Leonard wasn't the right quarterback. They couldn't protect long enough consistently to do that. So you have to adjust, and you have to do things, and you have to change. And I mean, these coaches all get paid a lot of money. They were pretty good at their jobs. Most of these same guys were there last year. Yeah. It's on them to change. And the thing is too, is that, which is why, I mean, it sounds so stupid to say, like, Chris Ash, like, you should, I mean, of course he's going to change. He wants to keep his job. I mean, some people are just stubborn. They don't, or they just revert back to whatever. And then if it becomes that, then hey, it is on Marcus Freeman for hiring him. If he's not adaptable to that. But if that's the thing, is like, Rajon brought it up here, if you want to throw that up. I mean, yes, he can.
So let's read it. Let's read it for people who aren't watching. Should Freeman in game have told Ash to get more aggressive?
Like, yes, he probably should have. At the same time, he's trying to give the guy that he hired and brought in leeway to say, hey, I'm giving you autonomy to do this, right? And that's why he hired him. He's hiring him to try to make them better. And hey, we'll see if it happens, but there has to be like a happy medium between like what Ash wants to do and what they're already good at. And that is like important. It's like this kind of the thing where, like, when Nebraska all of a sudden was like, or Wisconsin, so very specific, people will know this more who aren't old enough, but Wisconsin going to Phil Longo at offensive coordinator and just being like, air raid, and just going that, like, just deep into it. It's like, well, basically you just took away 40 years of identity of what the offense was, and also the personnel that's there right now. Like, they weren't going to be able to get enough guys in the portal to change it that drastically that fast. And they didn't. And they tried to play a certain way, and they stunk. And then he got fired after 2 years. And then all of a sudden, Luke Fickell's like, well, we got to get back to who we are as Wisconsin. Yeah, you think? Like, who's Notre Dame as a defense? Why do people want to play for Notre Dame's defense? That style, that type of thing, it's important.
Yeah. the reason that because here's the thing with Freeman. There was a change prior to the drive where they went down and scored, because they weren't sending pressures on that. Like you said, Sims, it's people get focused on blitzing and sending heat and all this other stuff. And Marcus Freeman did this in 2021. You can send 4. Just don't always give them what exactly you're showing. Notre Dame's showing that they're just going to rush 4 with their ends and their tackles, and they're just going to try to win one-on-one. It's much easier for the offensive line. Marcus Freeman said at halftime, "We have to play this way." He said it. We have to win with the 4-man rush. And he's like, if we need to, we'll send more, but we have to win with 4. He said after the game, we got to win with 4. I think Marcus Freeman was on board with this. So I don't want to totally scapegoat Ash here and be like, hey, this is him. Marcus needs to step up. Marcus Freeman is a defensive coach. Like, it's kind of like if Alabama's doing something on defense, Nick Saban's a defensive coach. You're not doing anything on Nick Saban's defense without him being like, okay, I agree with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's involved with the game plan.
Or
the game plan is the game plan.
Too.
Exactly. So the game plan is the game plan. You got put in. Marcus Freeman agreed. I'm not totally throwing Ash under the bus here for that. Marcus Freeman's a head coach. He's a defensive head coach. Okay? If he doesn't want it, it won't happen. It won't happen. So there's that. I don't like that after the first game, because what did everybody think going into this game? It's like, you can't if you let Carson Beck stand there and you make it easy for him, because not just that, they didn't mix coverages either. If they showed man, it was man. If they showed zone, it was zone.
That was also extremely perplexing.
Yes.
Especially when he talked about, well, we got to give him different looks. I'm like, where was this?
Yeah.
They weren't doing that.
I mean, they got exactly what they thought they were getting every single time. And so that's why the ball can come out, because he's not confused. He's completely comfortable, and he knows I know exactly where to be looking. And the few times that they changed it up, they rushed 3 and they didn't know what to do, and he threw the ball up in the air. Right? The few times they pressured him, he just threw the ball up in the air. That he would have thrown Notre Dame the ball. They didn't give him enough opportunities to do that. So that's why I'm a little bit uneasy about the defense. I don't like I was saying to you and I was saying to Matt, I don't like what I saw. That's the stuff that makes me nervous. The offensive stuff is like, all you have to do is say, hey, we're not giving the RPO decisions to our quarterback again. And look, Notre Dame's done this in the past. It's not like Sam Hartman was. They didn't even give this. They didn't even give this responsibility to Sam Hartman at times.
Yeah.
Riley Leonard, he didn't have carte blanche to be doing this. So I was very surprised at that. All they have to do is say, look, we're not going to do that again. And we're going to give the ball to Jeremiah Lovemore. And we're not going to play as good a defense. Because I'll tell you what, Notre Dame's not going to play as good a defense, but they will play an offense. So I didn't think Miami was the great shakes on offense, to be honest. Watching them on tape, I was like, Notre Dame's going to play offenses as good or better. And especially from a personnel
I thought if we were
standpoint.
there playing, I mean, it's obviously going to be later in the year and things are going to change or whatever, but I think that they would have played USC in the first game, they would have got cooked.
Yeah. 100%.
They would have got cooked. And that that is not something that and honestly too, that is something to think about, because it should hang over everything that they do going forward. And USC is not even, I don't even know if they're going to be great shakes, but just Lincoln Riley would have cooked them.
If you show him the same thing over and over again, he will light you on fire.
He's killing you.
He will light you on fire. That just will happen. And so that's why I'm much more concerned about what I saw on defense. It's not that it can't get corrected. It's not that it can't, right? These are coaches. They're paid a lot of money. But just after watching it, the offense, I feel okay. The defense, it's what they were trying to do. Because we talked about it, man. You watch the tape. If someone doesn't know, you say, who are your stars? on defense, who are their best players? If someone who never seen Notre Dame play before, has no idea, just watched the game, you would have said number 27 popped, number 5 popped, and number 27, number 5, and 93 did some good stuff inside. And then after that, you'd have been like, they've got some good players, but no one that really stood out to me. They are too good of a roster on defense for that to be the takeaway. And so that's where it's kind of like that's got to change. You know, they didn't play that great, but it was just what they were trying to do. Really, really concerned me. Final thoughts, Jamie.
It's funny, it's Steven Chuckle. If I didn't know the score and listen to the show, guess we lost 42-3. I think the whole point is when you watch the film and you lose a game.
So how many? So to this point, if I didn't know the score and listened to the show, I'd guess we lost 42-3. What has? And this is how film goes, by the way. Like when you have all these old time quotes. I think it was Terry Hanratty. They won his first start. He threw like 7 touchdowns or 6 touchdowns or whatever it was. And then he went to film and he was like, I played a terrible game. Like, that's how film goes. You can play poorly and be in the game. And that's a good, by the way, that is a good sign. It is a good sign. They did a lot of not good things.
Yes.
Especially, and they were there. Okay. That is a good sign.
That is a great sign.
Right.
You lost by 3 to a top 10 opponent on the road and you played bad.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
welcome to watching film.
Yeah.
I've been screamed at for touchdowns, Jamie. I scored a touchdown and I got screamed at. Like that's how film goes. Like when you break it down, sometimes it looks really good and sometimes it doesn't. And it's just like, it is what it is. And the reason I'm alarmed by this is when I turned on Notre Dame's film last year on defense, it was like, man, I love watching them. I love watching this team. And I said it over and over again. They are so sound. They are so well coached. They are like, they're just on it all the time. And it didn't look like that. It didn't look like that. And I'm just being honest about it. Okay. It's not my job to make people feel good. I hope you feel good or whatever it is, but it just is what it is. I didn't like it. There's a lot that I didn't like. So just being honest, Jamie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me too, I mean, I think it's like you can look at it that way, and I look at it the other way as that, like, I don't think they're gonna play like that the next game, and I don't think they're. I think that's the whole point of you get these games like this, and hopefully you win them and you can learn from it. But you lose a game like that, you have all that, like, you have to make changes, and that's what happens. It happened to, like, Al Golden had bad games and was like, well, I called a bad game. We got to do this different. Like, that's for real. Like, this is what happens. And coaches don't like to lose. They like to win. They want to win. They want to keep their jobs. They want to do really well. They also know that Notre Dame's goals are much bigger than just like beating Texas A&M, going like, they want to win them all, and they want to go to the playoff, and they want to win a national championship. They don't want to waste this talent. They openly have talked about it, like, this team is more talented than whatever. Everybody's talked about that. Don't waste it. So they're going to make changes. Yeah. And that's really like, I think, and that's also too why people should feel good about it.
Yeah.
Right? They should feel good about it.
Yeah. I'm getting too old for this. How much blame do position coaches get? It's not blame. It's they're responsible for it. People use the word blame too much. They are responsible for the product. Coach Freeman is responsible for the product. Denbrock, Ash, they are responsible. It is their responsibility. That's why I don't blame people. You can talk about individual plays and who was responsible on an individual play, but as a whole, they're all responsible. You have to coach your team. You have to coach your players. There is more responsibility on the coordinators than all the position coaches combined. There is more responsibility on head coach than even the coordinators. They're responsible for it. So, like, that should be baked into everything that we talk about. Whose job is it? It's the coach's job. The coach's job is to coach them and to get them to play the way that they want. And if they don't, they're not doing their job as well as they could, right? There's another point in here that, like, Steven Shokowski said again, if Notre Dame won the game and it was tied or just over a minute to play and a back kicker hit a 47-yard game winner, dare I say the take is totally different. I would like to think that it wouldn't. The tape is the tape. It showed what it showed. Right now, there's another point by Chris Wojak. We're not comparing the 2017. That's right. If this was 2022, I do think the take would be different because that team had different expectations. That team had different standards. Like they weren't as good, right?
They weren't as talented.
So it would have been different. But Notre Dame is in a different place, and so I want to be mindful of that. They are,
and absolutely expectations change how you react to everything. It's why if CJ Carr played that game and he was, a guy was returning starter, you'd been like, man, that was disappointing.
If it's the opener next year
and he plays that game, because there were some critical mistakes that he made in the game,
yes.
But it was his first game and you saw a lot of good. And you're like, he's going to get better. He's going to clean up some of those mistakes. He's going to learn from them. And the good was really good. Yes. And you're excited about what, the steps he's going to take. And obviously, it's not always a linear, you're not always going to go up. It's not always going to go that way. But there was more than enough there to be like, first game, excited about what's to come. It's different. It's exactly why, like, if Knapp and Wagner played that game in the Texas A&M last year, it would be concerning, 100%. But also,
you would understand.
You would understand, and then also, this game, that's why it's baffling, because it's like, wow, those guys didn't play like that. Like, it's just, come on, like that's horrible, right? Yeah. So you have to judge it based off of that. Like there's no other way around. Just like we judge the linebackers and be like, they did this last year. Why aren't they playing down? Why is this? Why are they? Well, there are real answers for that. And that's the whole point of this, is to explain why and see like, hey, this is fixable.
Yeah. That Notre Dame can allow 324 total yards on 4.7 yards per play. And we can look at it and be like, that's not good enough. Speaks to the talent. That is the outcome, but the way that they got there, we feel like that. And then there's so much that needs to get better. That speaks to the talent. They are talented. And we do think that they will bounce back. I think they will bounce back. Because A, I don't think Texas A&M is as good. B, it's hard to go on the road. It's hard to go on the road. It's very hard. Okay. And that was
Alabama. It's way different. Yes. As people are bringing up about Alabama, like, Alabama is where, Marcus Freeman, how people were acting towards him in his second year when things weren't going like, but except for worse, because there's even higher expectations.
Yeah.
Because the guy that he replaced is maybe the greatest college football coach of all time.
Yeah.
So and it's fair or unfair. That's how he's judged. He's judged based off of that. And also judged by, hey, wasn't Caden Proctor supposed to be a first-round pick? Why did this guy get abused in this game? Like, all of that kind of stuff changes how you view things, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we're talking about Notre Dame. And Trader Z says, worried about Arkansas. Listen, that Notre Dame's got a game against Texas A&M they need to win. And by the way, if they win it, then let's be real. In the current climate of college football, the Miami game doesn't really matter that much. It really doesn't, because they will be 1-1, just like they were last year. They would have a win over Texas A&M. Like, USC is going to be ranked. I'll tell you that right now. They're not a bad team.
By the way, Notre Dame is still ranked in the top 10.
Still ranked in the top 10. Okay, if they beat Texas A&M, they are fine. Okay, so it is what it is. Okay, we're just being real. We're being honest. We're having an honest conversation. I think everyone can handle it. Okay, we'll go on. Jamie, are we going to do Friday?
I can't do Friday.
Are we going to do tomorrow?
Yeah, let's do tomorrow.
Okay, we'll do tomorrow. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please hit the like. Please hit subscribe. please hit the notification bell. Somewhere there it is. We are going live. We'll be back on Thursday to talk more Notre Dame football, and it's going to be a fun show. All right, so have a good rest of your day, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Keep hitting and hustling.